Chapter 10, Lesson 5, Solve quadratic equations by completing the square. So now we're going to approach it a different way. When we can't factor as easily and we don't want to graph, we're going to use our knowledge of the perfect square expressions that we've done before and use that to actually solve things. So if you remember, this here is just this. And this here is just this. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to strive to figure out a way of coming up with changing the expression that we have so we can change something that kind of looks like this, x squared minus 4x, into this, and then we can factor it, and I'll show you exactly what I mean in a second. So if you remember here, the value of c that makes the expression x squared plus 7x plus c, a perfect square trinomial, if we find that value of c, then we can go ahead and factor it out in a very easy way that's going to look eventually like that. So to find the value of c, what you need to do is it needs to be half the coefficient of the b value. So half the coefficient of that b value, so that's 7, so 7 over 2. But then it's squared. So that's the reason why c has to be that in order for it to be a perfect square. And I like leaving it like that because then if you want, you can write it out like this way. And that's what you'll do on the other side of the equation when we do this. But this here, x squared plus 7x plus 7 over 2 squared, that is just going to factor out to this expression here, which is x plus 7 over 2 squared. So let's do this a couple of times. So here, all we're doing is it says find the value of c that makes the expression a perfect square trinomial. So I'm going to do is I'm going to get half 8, so that's 4. And then I'm going to go ahead and square that, so it's going to be 4 squared. So this, if I were to rewrite it, it would be x squared plus 8x, either plus 16, or like I said, I like to leave it like this, or you could do it and that's going to factor out to x plus 4 squared. This one here, it's going to again be half of 9, so that's going to be 9 over 2, and then that's squared. So this is going to be x, x minus, remember the minus because there's a minus sign here, x minus 9 over 2, and then that whole expression is squared. For this one here, it's going to be 16 divided by 2, that's 8. So 8 squared is going to be my value for c. So it's just going to be x, again, minus 8, and that whole thing squared. And if you want to give it a try to make sure that it works, x minus 8 times x minus 8. When we use the FOIL method to do that, we're going to end up with x squared minus 8x minus 8x plus 64. So it's going to be x squared minus 16x plus 64. So it does work. So let's look here. The reason why this is useful is if you're asked to solve this equation by completing the square. First thing we're going to do is you're going to get everything on this same side. So that's what's happening here. Actually, that's what's happening on this step here. You're going to go ahead and actually you don't need to get everything on the same side because we're completing the square. That's perfectly right. We could bounce it over there, but if we're completing the square, we actually need to leave the expression like that to start with. If we're factoring, we need to put it all on one side. If we're completing the square, we just need the a term and the b term to be on the left-hand side of the equation. So sorry about that confusion there. So let's look here. So we just need the a squared and the b squared on that, the a and the b term on this side. So then what's 14 divided by 2? That's going to be 7. So 7 squared is going to be my perfect square. So now, but I need to add that to both sides. When I do that, I now can factor this to x plus 7, that whole expression squared. And then on the other side, I end up with negative 13, that's plus 7 squared again. I'm going to change that eventually to 49. And when I change that to 49, I'm going to end up with this value here, 36. So I'm going to x plus 7, that whole expression squared, is equal to 36. Now I'm going to take the square roots of both sides. When I do that, I'm going to end up with x plus 7 on one side. So I took the square root of that whole side, and that's the only thing that's over there. And then I have to do the plus minus piece, don't forget that part. Plus or minus 6 on the other side. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bounce the 7 over to the other side again, subtracting 7 to both sides, so I end up with this part here, negative 7 plus or minus 6. So my values are going to be 1 and negative 13. And if you actually went ahead and were not given the instructions to complete the square, this one's a lot easier to solve if you just recognize this. This is just x plus 13 when you factor it, and x plus 1. So yeah, so it is going to be that negative 1 and negative 13 piece, because that's what makes those expressions 0. So let's look at one that doesn't work quite as neatly, but still does work. Actually, this one here is the same one. So let's look here at this one here that doesn't work quite as neatly. Again, here you're being asked to solve this by completing the square. One thing that's very important is, again, you bounce the 9 over to the other side because you just need your A and your B terms on one side. The C should be on the other side here if you're completing the square. So you bounce the C over to the other side and you have 9. So 3x squared, plus 18x is equal to 9. Now, important thing is you need to divide both sides by 3. And when you do that, you're going to end up with x squared plus 6x is equal to 3. Because that A term we want to be just 1 if we're completing the square. So it makes it a lot simpler. So then what you do is you figure out what the perfect square value is going to be. So 6 is the B value, half 6, 3. 3 squared is right there. And so you got to add that to both sides. So now we rewrite the factored expression as x plus 3, that whole expression squared. And then we add these two together. So 3 plus 3 squared, that's going to be 9. So it's going to be 3 plus 9, that's 12. So now what ends up happening is we take the square roots of both sides. So we get x plus 3 on this side. And then over here on this side, we got to take the square root of 12, but the plus or minus square root of 12. So then we plug in those values. We move over the we move over the 3 to the other side. And when we do that, then we change 12 into its square root, and then we just add or subtract depending upon the one. And then when we add, we're going to end up with that value. When we subtract, we're going to end up with that value. So that's how this works. Let's do one here. So this is going to be, it's going to be 4. It's going to be the value 4 squared. So it's going to be x squared minus 8x plus 4 squared. I'm just going to leave it like that. So now this is going to be x minus 4. The reason why it's minus is because it's a negative in front of that 8. And that's going to be equal to 7 plus, and that value is going to be 16, so it's going to be 23. So then we take the square root of both sides. X minus 4 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 23. So x is going to be 4 plus or minus the square root of 23. And then we just take the square root of 23 and we add it to 4. I'm not going to finish that off. Here, same thing. What's the value? 12 divided by 2. 12 divided by 2, it's going to be 6. 6 squared is going to be my new c value, so it's going to be x squared plus 12x plus 6 squared is equal to negative 3 plus 6 squared. So this is going to be x plus, make sure it's that plus or minus, it's plus in this case, is equal to negative 3 plus 36, so that's going to be 33. So it's going to be x plus 6, take the square root of both sides, plus or minus square root of 33. Then it's just going to be x is equal to negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 33. So we figure out the square root of 33 and we add it to negative 6, and then we subtract it from negative 6. We're going to end up with two different values, and that is what is going to be the final answer. And that is what those two values are going to be. Make sure you got two values for almost all of these. So, thanks.